Hello, everyone, once again. This is Rob, and welcome back to Media Awareness and another review. This is a documentary review, and it's a documentary entitled Tell Them You Love Me. And this is something I've been watching on Netflix uh, fairly consistently the past several days since it popped up on my Netflix feed, and I've been addicted to it. So I thought I would review it because it really, really struck a chord with me um, as a disabled person myself. And not for the reasons you might be thinking if you've seen this documentary. So I do hope that you'll stick around for my take on this from a personal perspective, and um, that you will watch this video to the end itself. But before I get to the review, and I will actually be showing the trailer as well in this video, in addition to talking about the documentary. So if you haven't seen it, and if you are leery about spoilers, um, just pause and go watch it and come back. It is currently airing on Netflix here in the U.S. Not sure where it's airing overseas, if at all, or in any other countries, but it is captivating, and I mean that in all aspects. It's so riveting. I just couldn't stop watching it, and my frustration and anger continued to grow past several days. So it finally is boiling over now, which is why I'm doing this review now at the boiling point. That way you have it fresh and not watered down. So, with that stated, and with all of that out of the way, a reminder to those of you who are unaware, or those of you who are new to my channel, I am a disabled individual, and I use a motorized wheelchair slash scooter all day, every day for my independence, and I need your help desperately. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter, as they view it as a quote luxury item end quote. Despite the fact that I am unable to walk whatsoever and unable to use any other type of power chair or a standard wheelchair for that matter, due to my dexterity limitations and only having use of one hand, and limited at that. With all of that stated below the title of this video and the description, as well as in a separate section below that, you will find a spot fund link. Any and all help is welcome. I am far from reaching the target goal, and the goal at the current moment is to actually raise the funds to be able to continuously refurbish my existing scooter so that it will not malfunction, leaving me to be a fish out of water. My scooter is my lifeline to independence, and I thrive on my independence on a daily basis. And I can't imagine being stranded in one place for longer than it takes to charge my scooter at times. I'm really that on the go. I go throughout my house, my neighborhood, and beyond. But it is imperative that I have the use of my scooter at all times, and the funds that are raised are going towards the parts and the trained technicians to install these parts for me, and efficiently, and um, therefore it is really a necessity. I hope you can do what you can. If you're not able to contribute, please subscribe to my channel and spread the word about media awareness. I usually cover music and movie related topics here. I do plan on doing a book review very soon, as soon as I finish rereading Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Haven't read it in years, and I'm currently doing a reread for the purposes of doing a thorough review on my channel here. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. So, with all of that stated, here we go. Tell Them You Love Me is a documentary which tells two sides of a story. And we as the audience are basically left to make our own decisions as to what we think is um, legitimately uh, right and wrong in the context of this documentary. It focuses on a professor named Anna and um, one of her students, John, who has a disabled brother named Derek. Um, John's mother is also quite involved in this documentary as well, and um, I will be referring to all four of them in this review. Um, and John and Derek's mother is Daisy. Uh, so it's interesting because um, in watching this, I saw a lot of parallels to my own life, my own existence as a disabled individual, and um, before I get to any of that and any more of this actual review, I'm going to cut here to the trailer, and after that I'll be back with my thoughts.
I found disability interesting.
Derek can't communicate nonverbal with cerebral palsy.
When I met Derek, I sat in the class with him and provided communication support.
Facilitators were doing this thinking they were giving people the ability to be able to communicate.
She looked at Derek and said, "Do you want me to tell you?"
She said, yes, we have made love.
Then he said, I've dreamed about this.
She was having conversations with herself.
Anna is a pathological liar and narcissist.
I'm not guilty of a crime.
So there you have a glimpse of this documentary, and it raises questions. What actually is true and what's not? What actually is possible with someone that's nonverbal and what's not? Now, just for some context, I myself am, as stated, a disabled individual. However, my disability is also cerebral palsy. By association. I was not born this way. I was born quote unquote normal, and up until the age of 4, I was quote unquote normal. But at the age of 4, I contracted a condition whereby my epiglottis in my throat swelled shut, subsequently causing me to die, and due to the lack of oxygen. And I was dead for a little over 6 minutes before I was revived. And due to that gap of time without oxygen to my brain, a scar tissue formed on the areas of my brain that are in control of fine motor coordination, some vision, and mainly dexterity and motor coordination is the big thing. Like I said, my vision was also affected, but that's not as primary as my physical disability or is noticeable either. So, with all of that stated, my parents were told early on that um, I would not succeed in anything, I wouldn't do anything, and they'd be better off institutionalizing me. And they did not. They kept me home, and uh, I attended school on time. I attended college, acquiring a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in journalism, as well as a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. I worked professionally as a counselor for over 15 years, and I worked extensively with the mental health, mental retardation programs and their clients one on one. So I've worked with individuals with both physical and mental disabilities, both as well as average everyday folk. So I've done it all. And so I have a good background when it comes to analyzing and watching this documentary. And in watching it, I saw so many parallels to my own life in terms of the family dynamic of Daisy and John and Derek, as there was always this overbearing level of control that I picked up on from Daisy's perspective. Now, one can perceive this as protectiveness, which is how many of you may do so. But when you really take into consideration what your disabled individual is thinking and feeling, it may not be that at all. And they may be building resentment inside for the things that you have done supposedly in their best interests. So, getting back to this documentary, Derek's brother inquires about assistive technology essentially to help his brother communicate his needs basically. And in doing so, Anna discovers that Derek is vastly more intelligent than initially thought, and he begins going on this convention circuit as a spokesperson for individuals that are nonverbal and who are disabled. And there are some really uniquely contradictory statements that are made by both Daisy and John. And I picked up on them first time around, but I had to rewatch it a couple of times after that just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. And they were more so of to do with certain things that Derek was expressing, wants or needs that went contrary to things that he had previously known or been accustomed to. And I've lived through that, so I know what that's like. And I will get to that momentarily. I truly truly, after watching this documentary, you're left wondering, well, you know, is Derek, or D-Man as he prefers to be known by Anna, is he better off with his mom and brother, or would he benefit from potential assisted living circumstances? Which at one point his brother raises the question of who would pay for those assisted living training expenses. And the answer to that is insurance. They would do an evaluation. They would deem him to be either suitable for the program or not, and they would accept him or reject him. That's how it works. And the reluctance of the family to do so and to want both John's brother, Daisy's son, to want the man, we'll say, for the sake of using any name that he prefers, obviously, for him to have the choice of being independent and learning with assistance, but yet in a setting where he is not being coddled, so to speak, I think would have really, really helped him tremendously. I feel as if he potentially had too much trust in his mother and brother in terms of his best interests. And I do believe that he is far more intelligent than they present him to be in terms of the family's perspective, and that he is actually on par with what Anna reflects, as other professionals had also, who had worked with him, had mentioned his ability to do certain things. And what is really, really the key here is patience. When you work with disabled people, especially people with communicative deficiencies or inabilities, you need patience. And that could be anywhere from 1 hour to get one word or 1 day. But you need that level of patience to be able to figure out what is being conveyed. And this documentary really illustrates how Anna was more sympathetic to those wants and needs and choices, as opposed to decisions being made for the man and being made a lot of times against what he wanted by his mother and brother. And those decisions were mainly due to things that went contrary to what they believed or what they thought. And like I said, this really struck a chord for me. Also as a professional, and as stated, having worked in the counseling field for over 15 years, as a professional, my heart goes out to Anna for her reputation being permanently scarred by this entire ordeal, and the fact that she has not, to my knowledge, received any apology from the family. Now, her sentence was reduced, and the one charge was, I believe, dropped or dismissed. Um, so she only served, I think, 2 or 4 years out of a multi-year sentence. Sorry about that. I had to stop the camera. Um, Anna is accused of raping the man, and I I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Um, as a healthy, sexually active, middle-aged gentleman myself, who has been married and divorced twice, and had countless relationships over the years, I can fully state that we all have needs and desires. And by the way that Anna was instructing the man initially, there was definite indicators of intellect being there. And it was evident, I think, to Daisy and to John, and I think they were scared. They were scared of losing that control, especially Daisy. Um, they were afraid of losing the Social Security disability that they more than likely receive for Derek the man. Um, because that right there is a source of income. And I know this because it was done to me. My almost for 40 some almost 50 years of my life. My when I wasn't employed professionally and receiving Social Security disability, it was reportedly being used to pay my bills, being saved, and my mother was in control of this because, as she put it, I wasn't to be trusted. And I would be up to no good. And different comments and such like that. I lived under a shadow of control. And even when I thought I was doing things independently on my own, inevitably I would get a call next morning. Oh, I heard you were, at such and such with so and so. So nothing was ever personal in my life. Nothing was ever private. My mother was actually responsible, in part, for my second divorce and the events leading up to it, because her control was so tremendous on my life and continued to be. She died in 2018, and that's when I discovered that I owed the water company, the gas company, the electric company, the internet company, the phone company, everyone. I owed 3 to 4 to 5 months of payments. And because of that, I seriously reevaluated things, and in counseling, in receiving counseling myself. I discovered that there was a lifetime of control there. And this goes back to my childhood. And a, not just control, but a blind ignorance to the fact that I am disabled. An example of this is going on vacation. As we would go to the shore or later on in life to Florida. And there was always this choice that my mom had made to book a standard room as opposed to a handicap accessible room. And I did ask why. And I was told handicap accessible rooms are more expensive, which is a lie. She just did not want to admit to herself and face the facts that I was disabled. She'd rather see me struggle in a non-handicap accessible room to get around and to use the bathroom and not fall over. It was not a good life, and many people are under the misconception that I had a good life. I did not. I had a life of control from prior to the age of 4, but I would say more so from when my disability occurred onward. The reason I'm receiving counseling initially was due to a sexual violation. And that being the case, and this documentary basically focusing on the relationship that the man and Anna had and her supposed rape of him does not jive in my head. It just doesn't register. Especially given the amount of caring and compassion she had towards disabled individuals. It does not make sense to me how anyone of that nature would do that. And I don't believe she did. I truly think that the family saw themselves, Daisy and John, Daisy specifically saw herself as losing control over her son, losing the assurance of a monthly check on his behalf. And did not want to take the risks of losing that. And from having lived under the scrutiny of control, I can definitely relate to that. The documentary is riveting. I've watched it 3 times. Well, yeah, 3 times so far. I thought it was only twice, but I've actually watched it 3 times because it just got to me that this was happening to someone else. This control, this level of control was happening to someone else. And the reason I state this is because of the um, the independent living aspect of things. And if Anna believed that the man could thrive in a situation such as that supportive living, assisted living, um, and she, being a professional, would have that knowledge, why not go ahead with the evaluation instead of saying, as John put it, who's going to pay for this? But I feel like the man is living under that same shadow, and because he is nonverbal, it's so much easier to control him. And because he has not only the nonverbal block to work through, but the manual dexterity issues that don't allow him to convey meaning and words as easily. There's a scene in the documentary where he's being tested by a independent psychologist, I believe, or a psychiatrist. I forget which he is, but he basically said that the man, was asked to identify these different items that he was showing him, and he wasn't doing it. And I'm willing to bet that he was told, and I can't prove this, but I'm willing to bet this, that he was told if you identify those things correctly, man, you might not ever see your family again. Because I was told that at one point in time when I wanted to seek out some other services for myself. I was told I might never see my family again if I sought out those services. So there's a striking parallel between the man and myself. And having truly known love and been fortunate enough to know love on a few occasions, I can say that no one should be denied that. And the fact that he knew it for a short time with Anna, if that is what you wish to believe, which is what I believe, I feel like that is a time in his life that he will always treasure. But I do feel like he trusted his family far too much, as I trusted my mother in this case. My father is fantastic. My father is just an incredible man. But even he was unaware of the antics that my mother was up to behind the scenes in terms of financial control and financial allocation. And things were not what they seemed at all. And that's really what it boils down to, is things aren't always as they seem. And we tend to maybe feel bad for someone who is disabled, like the man. Especially looking at him being nonverbal and having the signature signs of cerebral palsy in terms of his dexterity, his movements, motor coordination. But who's to say he would not benefit from proper training? And he may have gone on to eclipse his brother in terms of education. I firmly believe that. As an educated gentleman myself, I firmly believe that. So, Now that you all know more than you ever probably wanted to know about me, and more than you ever knew about me previously, or prior, I do hope that you watch this documentary. Like I said, it is currently airing on Netflix. It is truly riveting, and you want to definitely make certain you watch it in its entirety. And there are pros and cons against both Damon, his family, and Anna. And it is up to us, the viewers, to determine really where things really stand. And I like the fact that it's open for that interpretation. At the same time, like I said, my heart goes out to Anna, having her reputation as a scholarly woman, pardon me, tarnished by this scandal. And my heart goes out to Damon for not being able to be with the woman he loves. For that is what I believe. And knowing how difficult it is for nonverbal individuals to communicate their needs, wants, etc. Having worked with them one-on-one myself, I can tell you that often there is more there than meets the eye. I'm going to close off this review and overview of myself by relating another sort of related topic. In one of the jobs I performed, I was in charge of a very large population of individuals who resided, I should say, at a long-term care facility. And every year I was responsible for identifying individuals that I felt would thrive from being placed into group homes within the community to have more community interaction and more one-on-one attention. And prior to my being there, the tendency was to target individuals, I should say, who had either families that were agreeable to community placement or no families at all to object to it. Whereas when I took over the caseload, I targeted individuals that I felt personally would thrive, whether they had families that were objective or not. And I made it clear to these families that these people deserve the chance to try. If it doesn't work out, they can come back. But there doesn't hurt to try. And I'm very, very pleased, actually very proud to say that in three of those, well, I only ever had three opposing families. And in all three of those cases, those individuals went beyond and exceeded even my expectations. And I received calls at my home from the families of these individuals thanking me for insisting that they try and for using my life as an example as I could have been just as easily institutionalized as a child, as opposed to being allowed to thrive. So there is that. For the record, I did not want to be a sociologist. I did not want to be a counselor. I did not want to go to college. I was forced to do that as well. That way, my mother could say that her son was educated. To compensate for the fact that I was disabled, I'm convinced of. As she never wanted to face that fact. And it's very personal, but I feel that you all need to know. And I hope that this helps your understanding of people with disabilities, whether they're verbal or not, that decisions they make are not always theirs. And that is sort of the bottom line. Decisions they make are not always theirs. And I hope that you all reflect on that and take that into consideration. Once again, a reminder the fundraiser continues. Please do what you can or consider subscribing to my channel. I will see you all again soon. Have a wonderful morning, noon, or night wherever you are. Take care. Bye.